What's up, JW here. Today is the AEW Weekly Setup Review. This is AEW's Dynamite episode 200. This is the 200th episode of Dynamite last night. This show was absolutely freaking insane. Already, before we even get into it, I'm gonna say this show was either a 4.5 out of 5 or a 5 out of 5. This show was crazy. Okay, so they started the show off with, Don Callis said last week that Chris Jericho doesn't have a tag match against Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia with Takesha. They actually had a pretty good match. I really liked that they started it because Sammy Guevara started the very first episode of Dynamite. Had the first match of Dynamite against Cody Rhodes. This time he was having it against his mentor, pretty much the leader of his group, Chris Jericho. Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara put on a great match with Jericho and Takesha. Overall, pretty good match. It was going back and forth, and then Daniel Garcia was crawling around, and Don Callis came up with Chris Jericho's bat, hit him in the head. Not Sammy Guevara, but I don't have a Daniel Garcia figure. And then Jericho got really mad at Don Callis for doing that, but he ended up pinning him, and they won. And Jericho did not look very happy after that. Later backstage, Daddy Magic came out to Jericho and said, "Jericho Appreciation Society meeting next week. You better be there." So something's gonna happen. I really hope Jericho doesn't stay with Don Callis. I hope he keeps on being with Jericho Appreciation Society. But what I truly hope, because he said almost like a month ago now, that he plans on changing a better version of Chris Jericho, better than ever. I hope he ends up going on his own. That's the only thing he's not done in AEW, as doing stuff on his own. After that was the No Holds Bars match. It was Trent versus Jon Moxley versus Pentagon. Absolutely insane match. Trent got really bloody. They're going back for surprisingly, Jon Moxley did not get bloody at all, but they did some absolute crazy stuff. There was a Canadian destroyer through a table, some crazy flips. Jon Moxley got thrown through a table. Another, I think there was a paradigm shift through the table. It was just absolutely insane, going back and forth. Moxley did a paradigm shift to Pentagon through the table. Then Trent hit him with the knee to the face and threw Mox out of the way and pinned Pentagon, pretty much stealing the win. After that, it turned into a huge brawl with the BCC and best friends. It was Mox, Rita Yuta, Claudio, Orange Cassidy, Trent, Chuck. Everybody was just brawling outside of the ring and everything was crazy. That match was pretty dang good. Really enjoyed it because, honestly, for a Dynamite, absolute amazing match. After that was one of my favorite parts of the show. I cannot freaking believe this still. So, Tony Schiavone had Jack Perry in the ring. It was supposed to be Jerry Lynn versus Jack Perry. They were supposed to go face to face and they're having a match. Jerry Lynn came out. He's like, "Well, I'm too old. I have plates and screws in my neck. There's no doctor in the world that let me wrestle. But I do have a friend that still wrestles today." And then he's like, "He'll wrestle you." And then his music hits. It was freaking Rob Van Dam. RVD is in AEW now. I could not freaking believe it. His music hit. The crowd lost their minds when he came out. When he came out of the tunnel, the crowd was so loud I hardly could even hear the freaking announcers. They were losing their minds. RVD, looking in great shape for his age, came to the ring, went face to face with Jack Perry. Jack Perry dipped, ran out of the ring, and then he ended up coming back with a chair trying to attack RVD. RVD did his crazy spinning kick in the air, and Jack Perry ducked and got out of the way. But oh my gosh, that spinning kick was crazy. RVD looks in great shape for his age. I cannot believe RVD, Rob Van Dam, is in AEW. I could not believe that. I was not expecting that at all. I was so hyped after that. So after that was another insanely intense match. It was the Elite versus Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett. I'm using a Bryan Danielson body, legs, and a body of Owen Hart because that's what his gear kind of looked like. And then I'm using a Scorpio Sky with some red pants because that's what it kind of like. And then I'm using Great Khali because they had their giant 7'3" guy that's in Jeff Jarrett's group, and there's nobody as big as him. So I had to use Great Khali because I had to use him for the setup, but not the end of the world. Absolutely crazy match going back and forth and everything between the three of them, with 6 of them, and then having so many other people in the match because Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett's like manager tried to interfere with taking out the Bucks, and the Hardy Boys came running out. Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy, they're beating him up. Did a twist of fate to him. The Bucks did a crazy double suicide dive onto the giant guy that's in Jeff Jarrett's group. I always forget his name. And then Jay Lethal tried hitting Kenny Omega with the guitar. He got out of it. He V-triggered Jay Lethal and started playing the guitar on him. Jeff Jarrett went to attack Kenny Omega, but out of nowhere, Hangman Adam Page, when the ref wasn't paying attention, hit the ropes and did the buckshot lariat and took out Jeff Jarrett, and Hangman was able to pick up the victory for the Elite. But during that match, it was stopped by Jeff Jarrett. Kenny Omega picked up the freaking giant guy, like he's like 7'3", had him up, and then he ended up, Jeff Jarrett ended up stopping him, and he had to put him down. But he had him on his shoulders for the one-wing angel. I could not freaking believe it, because you have to sit on it, like, if it's like a piggyback. I don't know how the hell he did that. That shows how freaking strong Kenny Omega is. I was absolutely blown away that he was able to do that. But overall, that match was very chaotic, but so freaking good. You had the Hardy Boys, you had the Bucks, you had Hangman Adam Page, you had Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal. It was just intense of a crazy match and having fun. And then after that, the Bucks, Hangman, and Kenny Omega were in the ring, and Hangman said that the Elite's not going anywhere. We signed a long-term contract, and here's to the next 200 episodes. So clearly, the Elite were going to be with AEW for a long time still. After that, MJF came out because he had something to say, because last week he sacrificed himself to lose for him, and Adam Cole blamed it on himself, and the Adam Cole knew he was going to turn on him. He's like, all right, hit me. That's what he was doing on a collision, and MJF ended up throwing the title, and they ended up hugging. So clearly MJF has changed. He's not the same man anymore. But MJF came out pretty much telling stories of how he was bullied as a kid and everything, and he always assumed he had to be a jerk to everybody. He had to be a scumbag because nobody liked him, and nobody was a good person. He said, Adam Cole has changed me, and MJF went total babyface. I think he's totally going to be the babyface of this work right now. And he ended up calling out Adam Cole and telling him, I did promise you a title match, so I'm not going to give you the title match because you're not worthy of it. And then Adam Cole looked shocked and he goes, no, you're worthy of a special title match. The main event of the biggest professional wrestling show, all in London at Wembley Stadium. The main event is going to be Adam Cole versus MJF for the AEW title. And Adam Cole's like, whoever wins will still be friends. So they're still in a friendship group right now, which I do like because they're just so good together. And I cannot wait for the main event of All In. That's going to be a hell of a match. After that, they announced CM Punk versus Ricky Starks. And you might be wondering why Ricky the Dragon Steamboat is like, because Ricky the Dragon Steamboat is in AEW now too. And he's a special referee for this match. Absolutely insane. CM Punk's defending his AEW title. He's not AEW champion. MJF is. But freaking Ricky the Dragon Steamboat's also in AEW. He's special referee. RVD's in AEW. It's absolutely insane. This show just gets better and better. And then the main event, there was a Ring of Honor tag match, but the main event was it was Hikaru Shida versus Toni Storm. Toni Storm is the AEW's women's champion. They actually had a pretty good match for women's match, going back and forth. I was not expecting this. Toni Storm ended up cheating, spraying her with the spray paint, but Hikaru Shida kicked out at 2.5, and then Hikaru Shida was able to roll up Toni Storm and got the 1, 2, 3 and 1 for the first. She won the AEW Women's title for the second time ever. But when she first won it, she won it in front of nobody. Now she's finally won the title in front of everybody, so everybody can see her be the women's champion. I thought that was pretty cool and pretty special. It had a bunch of red pyro and everything. It was confetti coming down in the ring. Also, after the show, that wasn't on TV, but it was on YouTube. Tony Khan came out of the ring, same thing with Chris Jericho. Jericho pretty much told the story of AEW, thanking Tony Khan. Then MJF came out in the ring, thanking him, pretty much saying that there was nothing else besides WWE. And then now there's this, and then all the roster came out on the stage, thanking Tony Khan. This episode was so special because I still remember watching the very first episode of Dynamite. Absolutely, I remember loving Sammy Guevara He's one of my most favorite, and loving Cody Rhodes, who's my favorite now, and who's in WWE. Isn't so cool if Cody could have been here, but I do love Cody in WWE. This show was insane. It was very special, especially if you had watched since the very beginning of AEW. If you've been watching since the very first pay-per-view, before even the first episode of Dynamite, that Double or Nothing, when Cody fought Dustin Rhodes in a hell of a bloody match. I still remember that. It really meant something. It was special because I remember the first episode of Dynamite. Remember all the first pay-per-views. I was there. I remember their first Double or Nothing, first All Out, and then there's Full Gear, and then they had Revolution. I was at that. The first time they did that Revolution show. Like, AEW is very special to me. Is that I've been watching since the very, very beginning of AEW. I absolutely love this episode of Dynamite. Definitely, in my opinion, 4.5 out of 5 or a 5. I just can't decide. There was a couple things that just held it back from being 5 out of 5. I want to say, but I'm gonna give it. All right, I'm just gonna give it a 5 out of 5. Episode 200 of AEW Dynamite, the one and only. RVD, he is in AEW now. I cannot freaking believe it. Rob Van Dam is in AEW. But this is JW. Make sure you like, subscribe, stay tuned for more wrestling figure content, and also the reviews of these figures in the arena. And I'll see you guys in the next one.